It's currently 9:47 p.m. I'm currently working on the shoes slash boots for the current polystyrene drawing project. The last part that I have to finish. Once I finish the front of the boots, which I've nearly done, I'll do the sides and then the back. By then I should have the bottom, after which I'll put in the timestamp. I'm doing this while simultaneously playing this game called Dragon Lord, which is essentially like Eternal Fury, with a new coat of paint, to the point where I had deja vu and thought I had somehow already played that game. And when I first started going through the motions of the long tutorial, that format of MMO tends to give you, with you unlocking features as you level up by completing the task your handheld to complete. Well, the biggest thing I don't like about that kind of game is that having all these things on the screen and seemingly all these different things you can do, all these different things you can do to increase your battle ranking, can get overwhelming at times. Which is why I tend to stick to a game like Elvenar. Even during times where there's events, there's not a ton of stuff to do. Generally speaking, to make progress, I only have to spend essentially a minute or two at a time. To complete all of the tasks that the game provides. Only reason I'm on Dragon Lord is so I can complete Game Hag's task for that game, and hopefully keep from turning into a frog on the site by being this minimal degree of active. By completing one task, either a game task or something else, a week. It was around 6 in the morning when I had the last apple fritter. With the first cup of coffee out of the morning pot Dad made today. And then around 10:30 in the morning, I had essentially 2 bagel sandwiches, one with seemingly regular cream cheese, and the other with blueberry cream cheese. I took the picture like that to show the cream cheese better. But after I took that picture, I essentially put the 2 halves of each the 2 halves of the same cream cheese flavor together in order to basically have 2 bagel sandwiches. First the regular cream cheese, then the blueberry cream cheese. I ate the bagels just like that after lightly toasting them with the halves of essentially all 4 bagel halves separated. Into quarters within our toaster. And then I spread the cream cheese on the best I could. By this point, I had long finished the morning pot. I had somewhere between 1 to 2 cups with a little bit of a third. Roughly from 2 to 8 in the morning. And it was around that time, during the mid to late morning hours, that I finished coloring in the back of the jeans for the polystyrene drawing project, though I had to replace this dual tip with this fine tip only because that dual tip, by the time I started working on, I had done a bit of the back of the jeans, specifically roughly this corner. That dual tip, the fine tip end of that dual tip was kind of starting to dry out. So I decided that I couldn't cover the surface of the back of the jeans with the fine tip of that dual tip. It's a good thing I found that new marker within that leftover Ultimate collection of Sharpie markers I presumably got for a recent Christmas. Could have been last year's Christmas or the one before that. I'm not 100% sure. Though before I did before I could do the back of the jeans proper, color it in, I had to do these two back pockets based off of what I did for this polystyrene drawing. I did this one first and then this one, moving on to the next one after doing all of the details for the previous one. And then after I finished the back of the jeans, I think around noon, was when I did some details for the front, sides, and back of the boots. Essentially outlining them before working to color in and do more detail for the front of the boots. In the early to mid-afternoon, I went on to congregate, as I do pretty often since I check up on this game called Incremental Epic Hero 2 and saw that they had recently added a new multiplayer game and made a whole bunch of badges for it. It's called Stug. And it's a multiplayer top-down combat game. That essentially has the same premise as World of Tanks and War Thunder, in that you get put on a team of tankers and you battle against an enemy team of tankers. To simplify things, finding that game allowed me to get my first new badges on Congregate in nearly a year. In fact, it was just about a year. The last badge I got prior to that, I got on February 7, 2022, and it's the 1st of February now. So only about a week off. Generally, as I've been staying at Dad's place over the past 1 to 2 weeks, I've seen dry skin, some patches of dry skin move from this hand to this hand, and then my lips became chapped. What I mean is that I started off with dry skin here. Then as it healed, dry skin appeared here, and then as this healed, essentially my lips became chapped. In the past, when this happened, I wouldn't use chapstick. Because in the past, the chapped lips would heal on their own without chapstick. And he had something of a belief that using chapstick could make your lips dependent on it, or something to that effect. But then after a day or two of chapped lips, I decided either today or yesterday in the morning, to use some chapstick that Dad let me use, that he brings with him to work. I think it's helped somewhat so far. For the hands, Dad also has some Vaseline that I apply to them, and it seems to help. It's important to take care of that because it can result in bleeding if it gets bad enough. Then around 3 p.m. I had the pesto pasta that Dad got from Salvatore's the other day. He got some for me, along with an order of garlic knots. I microwaved the pesto pasta separately from the garlic knots. The pasta for 2 minutes. The garlic knots for a minute. 30 seconds, and then another 30 seconds when I decided they needed to be warmer. I had the bagels at the time I did, 10:30 in the morning, because I felt hungry at that time, roughly speaking. And then around 6 p.m., Dad made an evening pot for today, which essentially consisted of a surprise Irish coffee. And then after that, I had about 1 or so cup of plain coffee. And it was around that time that I was working on doing details for the front of the boots. How I do the laces is that to make these lines, I decide to connect them from a ring to on the border of a flap, the other flap of a particular front of a boot. And I just do that for each ring. I make these dots to serve as a guide, so I know where to go, where I need to go for each lace, generally speaking, and then I use this to fill any little gaps that this marker missed, essentially. I had this plan in mind for the boots in terms of the colors used and whatnot, and I felt that it ultimately turned out pretty good. Earlier, I tried to complete a task on Zoo 2 Animal Park, but every time I tried to go on that game, it seemed to get stuck loading, so for now at least, I wasn't able to get on that particular game and complete a task there, so that's ultimately why I'm on this game currently.